Hey guys, welcome back to another installment of the PH Journals podcast. I'm really starting to enjoy these solo episodes. Today's one is a bit of a doozy. Yeah, in Queenstown we've had a hell of a lot of rain, and the humidity is absolutely unbearable at the moment. For me personally, I hope it doesn't carry on like this because we need the cold weather to start creeping in so the fellow dear rat can kick off in good, spectacular fashion like it always does. But in this week's episode, it was a question that was brought up a couple of weeks ago. Never really paid too much attention to it. I got a little bit sidetracked, but one that I went back on and I was like, you know what, this is actually quite an important topic to discuss. And very, very fortunate to have guys that have interacted with me on any one of my social media platforms. It helps a hell of a lot, and it helps me to give back as much as I possibly can as some of the knowledge that I've gathered over the past 15 years of being a professional hunter. So, in this week's episode, it's all about hunting etiquette, the do's and the don'ts. So, guys, I've pretty much categorized everything, and I've done a little bit of homework on it, and I've gone back. And this one, I must admit, it was a very fun episode to prepare for. And the reason for that is I got to reminisce on a lot of my past experiences as a professional hunter. And I went all the way back on my phone, and I pulled up some of the first trophies that I had hunted with clients. I pulled up a lot of the cull hunts I did back in the day, kicking my professional hunting career off. A lot of the experiences going up to Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and all those sort of things, reminiscing that. And really, I spent a good part of this week. I guess that's probably why I'm releasing this podcast so late in the week. But I spent a good part of this week just going back, and it was so much fun. It was so many good memories. I've always said there's a very fine line between a memory and a moment, and essentially moments are there to look after your memories. And it's those moments in the bush, it's those moments on a hunting safari that you look back at and you're like, yes, that was such an awesome time. It really was. So guys, just to help everyone really just fit in and really have key points to understand, whether you're listening to this on the plane ride over or whatever the case may be. The job's done now. You guys have decided to go on safari. Whether you're a first timer or you've been coming for the past 10 years, it still applies. There are still situations that I get put into where etiquette, I hope I'm saying that right, etiquette I think is the right word for it. But hunting etiquette on a safari is very, very important. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, it helps you with your experience. It builds up a really memorable experience. And number two, it shows a lot of respect to the country that you guys are visiting and the industry that you are essentially tapping into on the side of the pond. And we are professional hunters, and we're called professional hunters for a reason, and that's because we take a lot of pride, and I speak on the vast majority of professional hunters. We take a lot of pride in dealing with our clients and making sure that they essentially have the best possible situation when out in the bush and best possible experience. So my first one on the list is all about the do's. You need to embrace in the culture. South Africa is very fortunate. We've got 11 official languages, but we also are very fortunate to have such a vast diversity of cultures. Beautiful cultures. I really think that South Africa is some of the most spectacular cultures there are. I think as locals, I think some of our biggest mistakes we make is not embracing one another's cultures as much as what we should. And from a young age, my father and his family, that side of things, they grew up in the old Transkei. Now, Just a quick brief history. The Old Transkei is a certain section of the Eastern Cape, pretty much from Queenstown down along the Wild Coast side. Beautiful area. And they had these trading stations set up in the Wild Coast. I mean, in the Transkei. And my father really just, his whole family really just embraced the Xhosa community, because that's who they were affiliated from. It was their everyday clientele. It was just something that they were never forced to, but really understood that they needed to embrace that culture as much, show a lot of respect to it, because essentially those are their customers and those are the people that they actually lived with for many, many years. Since then, after apartheid, everything kind of dissolved and went their separate ways. But I was very fortunate to grow up in a household with that kind of mentality. And it goes for a very vast amount of cultures in South Africa. And I've been very, very fortunate. I mean, the hunting community is filled. We have the wouldn't say obligation, but we have the opportunity to experience these different cultures. So whether you're a professional hunter in KZN, experiencing the Zulu side of things, coming down to the Eastern Cape, experiencing the Xhosa culture, and then on fellow professional hunters and fellow outfitters and all that sort of stuff. You've got the Afrikaans culture. There's so many massive diversities up in Limpopo. I think there's the Sotho, the Tswana people. It's just a really beautiful avenue for us, or opportunity for a lot of people to come out into South Africa. And no matter who they're hunting with, I mean, even up in North Africa, you got the Maasai, you got just so many different cultures. Embrace that. Get involved with that. Understand it. I'm not saying go out there and do what they do and eat what they eat. I'm saying that's all part of the experience, and I'll get into that a little bit later when it comes down to dining. But embracing it, just understand. Ask Molo. What does Molo mean? Ngos. Thank you. All these sort of things. It goes a long way. It shows a lot of respect that you guys are willing to come out and learn about the different cultures out there. A lot of clients will always, that I think they appreciate the fact that I'm fortunate enough to be able to speak Xhosa, and myself and Jeff, we often have conversations back and forth. And I think it's not to show any sort of disrespect to anybody in the safari baki or whatever it is, but it's more just about for them to experience that, to understand. I mean, Jeff is, I mean, his English is brilliant. He understands me very well. We talk English probably 80 or 90% of the time. But I do think a very important part of the safari is understanding and experiencing that relationship that we had. I mean, when I was a youngster, I understood Xhosa. I was very fortunate. Like I said, my father was quite influential in the Xhosa communities, especially when we went down to the Transkei. We had a holiday home there. And yeah, I played with a lot of the Xhosa kids that were there, and I was very, very fortunate. Coming back this side, I lost a little bit at school, but since being a professional hunter, I've been able to rekindle that enthusiasm in my language, and that's one of the things I want people to experience when they come out and hunt with us. And I think that's very, very fortunate, and it's a very, very important side of things. And I'm just speaking from my personal experiences now and from what I know, but I mean, I'm sure it goes for the same down in the Zululand area with the Zulu people. I mean, they're a fantastic bunch of people. They have got the largest community-owned land in South Africa, and it's beautiful. I mean, the history, the rich history. When I played down there, I went to go and see the camp. I know it's all like made up now of stories and all that sort of stuff, but the camp where Shaka Zulu lived, it was a magnificent experience. So embracing in cultures, understand that, also what are you contributing to those people's livelihoods? But we'll get into that a little bit later. So respect for your PH and your tracker. So there's a do and there's a don't in this one. The do is let your professional hunter and tracker do their work. It's as simple as that. The don't is don't tell them how to do their work. I've seen this, I've experienced it many, many times. Hunting in South Africa is not like hunting in your own country for many different reasons. One more of the obvious ones is species. The species is completely different, and I don't care whether you are a first timer or you've been to South Africa 10 times, it's never the same sort of situation. Making sure that you trust your professional hunter and your tracker as much as possible. They are there to do a job. And trust me, and I speak for the vast majority of us, um, we go out there every single day wanting to do the best we possibly can because there's so much on the line for us. You got to have a good experience is our main priority. Then we've got to keep up our reputation with the outfitter and keep up our reputation in the hunting industry. It's vitally important for any professional hunter, tracker, even trackers nowadays. It's so important for them to pull the correct strings and make sure that every single day they're doing a good job and they're doing it to the best of their ability because they've got a reputation to uphold. And on top of all of that, you are their main priority. So please, guys, don't tell a professional hunter how to do his job. Don't tell a tracker. It's always warming and it's always fun to see clients get really intensely involved, and I do understand that adrenaline kicks in and enthusiasm kicks in, which is wonderful to see. But there's that fine balance between over enthusiastic and pushing that boundary line, because a professional hunter, there's guys that hunt different styles, they hunt different ways. I'm not one that's intense that will go after a wounded animal immediately. I always like to let the dust settle, let everything just calm down. And I know it frustrates a lot of clients. I do know that. I'm fully aware. But from a professional hunting point of view, that's where it's very important to keep your communication and make sure that you're always on point. Building that relationship with your professional hunter, and I've done so many podcasts, especially this year, about it and how important that really is, because understanding that if you can build a relationship with your professional hunter, it essentially on day 2 or 3 becomes like a second instinct. And I do say that from the experiences that I've had. The clients really become a lot more at ease. And if you are coming back to lodge without any animals on the back of the pickup, the pressure is not overwhelmingly uncomfortable, because they still have the sense of comfort and trust within you as a professional hunter. So for me, that's vitally important. And you also don't want to do things that are going to tarnish yours and your professional hunter's relationship. And I do understand a lot of the time we are all experienced hunters. We've all hunted areas in North America, wherever you may come from. And you might have had certain success in doing those certain routines or tracking that certain way. However, these guys have done it for years, and they hold all the experience. So just have faith, just have trust, and I promise you now, more often than not, everything really comes to play, and it just all fits in, and it's a beautiful thing when it does, because you'll end up having an incredible experience. Paperwork and regulations. I had to dance around this one because I've been in trouble on the podcast before about saying things that I need to word correctly. So excuse me for taking a little bit of a breather here and really just trying to figure out how to word this. As much preparation as I've done, it still leaves a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling within inside me. But anyway, paperwork is vitally important. It is something most professional hunters don't like doing, and they'll always leave it up to the last night to do it. And I'm not saying that's the right or the wrong way. I'm just saying things on the last night get a little bit rushed. A lot of mistakes happen and a lot of things get overlooked. Now, the only reason why I'm saying this is because I have done the exact same thing. I've made mistakes on the last night. You'll end up backtracking, backtracing your paperwork. It becomes an absolute bloody nightmare, especially when it comes to species. And I'm just using this one as an example, like the bontebok. If the paperwork isn't correct, US Fish and Wildlife confiscates the whole crate, and it's a tedious process from then. You actually essentially what should be taking you every 20 minutes every single night when you get back to lodge is now going to take you a couple of weeks to get the paperwork correct. And while that is all going on, you as a professional hunter are sitting at home with a little bit of a sore feeling inside of you because it's stress. It just creates unnecessary stress and anxiety, and it's really just something that can be avoided if paperwork is consistently done thoroughly every single night. And that's just some advice. I know there's professional hunters there. There's no right and wrong way about doing this. I'm just telling you from my personal experiences. I have made the mistakes. I have paid the price. I have learned the lessons. I'm not going to do it again. I do my paperwork religiously every single night. It's the first thing I do. My tags get written up. So paperwork is very, very important. And from a client's perspective, understand what the paperwork means. The taxidermy registers, the professional hunting registers. Please, guys, do not throw those pieces of paper away. They are vitally important until those animals are hanging up on your wall. So, the do's in this. Every single day, make sure that you and your professional hunter spend a little bit of time and clear that out the way every single night. The don'ts is don't do unethical things that you are aware of or that you might have some concerns over, but you'll end up doing it anyway because that is the guidance from your professional hunter and outfitter. Now, this is where I need to navigate this carefully. As of late, I've become more aware of outfitters and professional hunters not doing things by the book. Hunting kudu out of season is just a very small example of this. I'm not sure who's to blame, because I think in the circle of the South African hunting fertility, there's a lot of responsibility that has to go to the outfitter. There's a lot of responsibility that goes to the professional hunter, and there's a unique responsibility that goes to the landowner. The landowner can always use the excuse that he wasn't aware of proclamations, conservancy rules, all that sort of stuff. There are excuses that can be used. The outfitter can always manipulate in saying that there's quotas on his CAE, he'll just put it under his register. CAE is a certificate of adequate enclosure, high fence in a nutshell. And the professional hunter can always use the excuse that he was being pressurized by the outfitter to make sure that the package gets completed. I'm not saying all outfitters are doing this. I'm not. I've just been aware of one or two guys within the Queenstown area that are constantly doing this. And it's a concerning fact for me personally, because in the hunting industry, we can't have a few guys abide by the rules and a few guys that break the rules, because essentially it's just Peter robbing Paul the whole time. We are not coming to any sort of concrete conclusion or beneficial strain out there. We have got a lot of wonderful people that are doing exceptionally good work within the industry about this particular situation. And I'm going from nature conservation, there's anti-poaching groups, there's guys that have got feelers out at the butcheries and all that sort of stuff, making sure that but my personal opinion is it's going to be very, very hard to police. So what does this mean? If you're a hunter coming out into South Africa, it shouldn't be your obligation, shouldn't be your responsibility to make sure that where you are hunting that kudu, that everything is by the book. It shouldn't be your responsibility. However, if you do have some sort of small knowledge about the South African hunting industry and you have an uncomfortable feeling about that, please, I would highly recommend that you as a hunter take that responsibility about yourself and either pull out of the hunt or make the professional hunter aware of the knowledge you have. Now, this is why I didn't want to mention this in this podcast, but my podcast is here to deliver information, as much information as possible, but also to give a lot of people a voice. This has been happening. A lot of us are unhappy about it. It's very difficult for individuals to go out there and stop what is happening. But in a nutshell, if more people are aware of it, maybe it just might minimize what is going on out there. It's essentially the same thing as if somebody is hunting an elk without a tag and out of season. Pretty much, in a nutshell, in a very simple terms. There's a lot more to it, but that's pretty much what it is. And the only reason why I mentioned it is because this is all about do's and don'ts. And I highly feel that if you have got a gut feeling that this isn't right, don't do it. But yeah, if you feel it's going to take away from your experience, remember, you guys, the client, is our number one priority. I would much rather have a client leave here a happy camper from any outfitter than an upset client or miserable client, because my goal at the end of the day, or what I would love to see, and it's happening, is positive light being shared on our hunting industry. And with that being said, I do want to mention and I want to say thank you to all the wonderful outfitters out there. And the vast majority of outfitters are doing things by the book, and without them, our kudu numbers, with them, our kudu numbers have grown. Our mountain reback numbers are growing. It's a beautiful to go and have a look. I mean, there's warthog all over. The conservation side of things that our outfitters are doing is exceptional work, and I think over the years it started off with a couple that really did it well, and over the years it's just gotten so much better. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful for those guys out there. So going back to the do's. The do's, go and see a taxidermist. Or if you can't, let the taxidermist come to you. And why do I say that? Because the don'ts is, don't write a South African taxidermist off to do your work. And for many, many years, I've been a part of the Splitting Image team. I love their work. I think they're exceptional as far as communication goes. They by far streaks ahead of anyone else. That's just my personal opinion. However, every outfitter will have an affiliate taxidermist that they deal with. Guys, please do not write South African taxidermist off. I would like to do a podcast with Doug and maybe some of the shipping agents on what it takes to get the trophies over there, because I think weighing it up between having them mounted and treated and looked after this side compared to having it just dipped and packed and shipped over is a much of a muchness. I don't really want to get into that on this podcast, but do's, go and visit a taxidermist, even if it's one, even if it's 10. If you've got the time to do it, go and do it. It's an awesome experience. Our taxidermists, they've got some of the coolest showrooms and they do some really, really special work. The don't write them off. A big one, I should have tied this in with the professional hunting side of things, but when you're coming out to South Africa, always be open to opportunities. So the do's is take your opportunities when they present themselves. Now, what do I mean about this is that more often than not, there might be a species of animals that might come into your site. I've done a podcast on this. I've mentioned it before. And it's not on your list. It's not what you've budgeted for, whatever it may be, whatever the excuse is. Be rest assured to be able to take that opportunity, especially if your professional hunter says so. There's a universal word for a professional hunter is you. When a professional hunter does that on a species that he thinks is magnificent, you shouldn't even think twice about taking that animal, because that is going to be something very, very special. And it adds that unique moment to your experience. So the do's is take your opportunities. The don'ts is don't be naive. Don't be naive to the fact that that is not going to happen. Always come a little bit extra prepared when it does come up. So, lodge etiquette. It's my last point. The do's, show appreciation. The lodge staff, it's something I wish I knew a lot earlier in my career. The lodge staff really appreciate acknowledgement. Please and thank yous, very, very simple things like that go a very long way in camp. What that does is it just absolutely boosts morale. It you'll find from the barman to the waiters to the chef to the ladies cleaning your room to the gardeners outside. If you acknowledge them on any safari every single day, I promise you now, guys, it's a value to see the smile on those people's faces. It's a value I can't really describe. I tell you what happened to me. We got up into Limpopo. We actually were on the border of Botswana, and it was a 5-star lodge, a little bit out of my, I wouldn't say comfort range, but I wasn't familiar with 5-star lodging. I'm going back 2 years now. Our main objective was to get up there. We were going for crocodile on the Limpopo River, hippo. There was an opportunity for us to take a brown hyena on tag. There was a specific tag. We never got lucky on it. And then we were hunting some of the night critters like civet, serval, that sort of stuff. Anyway, so the days were long in camp and the nights were very short because we spent a lot of the time hunting at night, except for the croc and the hippo. So spending a lot of time at lodge, I got the opportunity to really embrace and experience what essentially how the lodge moves during the day, because for some reason for the past however many years I've been oblivious to this fact, and not because I just haven't had the opportunity to pay attention to it. So the more we sat around and I was watching the clients interact with the staff, and it was a husband and wife, and the wife was unbelievable. She knew every gardener. She knew the ladies picking the roses for the beds. She knew who was cleaning her room, at what time, who did the towel origami on the bed, who the chef was that was coming on duty. We were there for 6 nights. We left on the 7th. And Wendy was absolutely unbelievable. She knew everyone by name. I promise you now, I was sitting at the pool area. I was talking to my wife at the time, and I looked up and I was just like, there's just such this aura around people when just something as small as, hi Tulani, how's things? How are you doing today? How's your wife? Did your kids go off to school? But you look so neat and wonderful today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. A 30-second interaction with those ground staff absolutely changed that whole compensation of that camp, the whole mood. And I'm not even kidding you, and I'm not saying this just for the effect on this topic. I oath a little bit of that acknowledgement just lit the whole mood up in that lodge, and it was incredible to see. And since then, I made personal points as I went around from hunting lodges and stuff to make sure that I knew everyone by name, and I greeted them in the morning and I said thank you and good night. Not that I never did it before, it's just I made it an concerted effort now. And I couldn't believe the difference it made. Even Jeff, the one day, he came to me and he's like, yes, what tablets are you taking? And I said to him, I said, why? He said, no, well, he's never experienced me like so happy and cheerful and stuff. And I said, Jeff, one of the big things for me is making sure that in this industry I make a difference. And I don't just want to make a difference from a client coming out that's spending thousands and thousands of dollars. I want to make a difference from the guy who's cleaning my room to you who's going to go and skin the animal. And just those small little things just made an absolute incredible amount of of positivity, and I love that. I love that, and that's why I added it in, because I think it's such an important part. The don'ts. So lodge etiquette. I think again I'm mispronouncing it. Guys, please. I don't know. When I was a youngster, starting out as a professional hunter, I was always told, and I did do a couple of training camps where the older generation PHs would rope me in at the bar and make me sit there until 2:30 in the morning and drinking a couple of beers with them and the clients. And yes, we got intoxicated. But I realized very quickly that I was absolutely useless the next day. But in saying that, it is, as a professional hunter's obligation to sit there until the client goes to bed. Just purely, it's just out of respect, and I think that's just good professional hunting people skills. But don't go and overcook it. Especially if you're a professional hunter, as planned, you plan to go out the next day, and you guys are going after kudu, fall rebuck, or something like that. That is going to take intensive amounts of hunting, good stalking techniques. Wind, scent, scent is important. Don't go and have a blowout, please, guys. There's on every safari, there's always a time and a place for everything. And when it comes down to alcohol and bar and stuff like that, try and do it on your off days. And if you don't have any off days, try and save it for the days that have got a lot less intensive hunting parts planned for them. More specifically, the last night at lodge. But yeah, guys, please, I've seen it so many times. Not only does it get very frustrating for the professional hunter, but the frustration and the regret actually plays a massive part, and it holds a very big burden over the hunter at the end of the day. So again, I am not saying that why I mentioned that is the right way of doing things. If you believe otherwise, by all means, I'm just speaking from my personal experiences. I'm not a very good hunter when I'm hungover. I don't function well. It is not something I really want to be doing. But be rest assured, if you are my client and you do send it the night before we are going out and hunting a kudu or something like that, you will be climbing that mountain behind me, come hell or high water, because like I said, opportunities are all about taking them in the African bushveld. So my closing thoughts is, guys, that's just a little bit of a refreshment of do's and don'ts as far as coming out and enjoying our beautiful bushveld, our wonderful, magnificent landscape, and our incredible cultures and professional hunters and outfitters. We've done a lot of work to get our industry to where it is today, and I feel it is so important for you guys to come out and have an enjoyable time. So I'm hoping these tips help you guys a little bit along the way. Yeah, like I said, I've learned a lot over the past couple of years, so I'm hoping this helps you guys. Well, guys, that's it from me. Closing off on this very unusually short episode. Had a lot of fun, of course, and like I said, I had an incredible amount of fun reminiscing on this topic. It was a good one. It was a goodie to go back on and check out all my photos and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to bringing you guys the rest of the season. Filet de Rat, almost. It's around the corner. A couple of weeks. Counting down the days. Crossing it off on my little calendar there. I'm like a little kid waiting for Christmas Day. But yeah, as always, if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon.